I'm having my one!
Brass Birmingham is a highly acclaimed economic strategy board game designed by Martin Wallace and is the spiritual successor to Brass Lancashire and is widely regarded as one of the best board games ever made, currently ranking #1 on Board Game Geek at time of recording. Set during the Industrial Revolution in Birmingham, England, players take on the roles of entrepreneurs, competing to build their industries, establish trade routes, and amass wealth. You'll be dealing in coal, iron, cotton, and the ever-important breweries, because in Brass Birmingham, beer is the currency, at least in a business sense. The game's played over 2 eras, the Canal era and the Rail era, each requiring players to adapt their strategies as the game evolves. Each turn, players take 2 actions from a set of options, including building industries like cotton mills, breweries, and box factories, developing those industries to access better buildings, establishing trade routes with your canals or railways, selling goods to earn income, and taking loans. Because what's an industrial empire without a little debt? Resources like coal and iron are shared, meaning careful planning and opportunism are key. Beer is crucial for selling goods, adding a unique twist where you need to secure supply chains and victory points are earned through the industry tiles and transport links, with a final scoring phase at the end of both eras. This deep strategic gameplay has multiple paths to victory, and the strong player interaction means your rivals' moves can create opportunities or ruin your plans. It's a game of calculated risks, ruthless efficiency, and of course, making sure you don't run out of beer when you need it most. Tom, very popular game for you, game that we've played lots. How are
Certainly
you
have.
finding it?
It's just a game that I will return to very happily every single time. It is brilliant every single time, and I love it. It's got huge amounts that I look for in any game that it is near the top of my list, where you've got lots of planning involved. There's things that will change a bit on the game state. The game state will change a bit as you're playing through. So your plans are not completely set in stone. So you need to sort of have like a couple of options that you're thinking about, planning ahead, and you've got your resources that you're managing, and there's a little bit of a race about it in terms of trying to get ahead of people and do things before they can as well. So yeah, fantastic game that, is it the best board game in the world? I don't know. I don't know. It's a slightly funny rating, really, isn't it? But it's certainly a game that I've very much enjoyed playing. And we haven't played it for a long time. You're right. We have played it a lot, but we hadn't actually played it a lot for, I think, maybe 18 months or so. But I've now played it 3, 4 times this year so far, and really, really loved getting back into it again.
I think it's definitely the best board game that's come out of Birmingham. That's my view.
The best thing to come out of Birmingham?
Maybe,
Oh,
maybe.
Don't say it. We've got our resident Brummie with us. Let's not put
Yeah.
it down.
Yeah, sorry, Seb. Sorry, Seb.
Well, I have left Birmingham, so you could say it's me. But...
Yeah.
And for good reason.
What with the bins and everything? Yeah, absolutely. You see this? These fires behind me. This is a picture from now. So, listener, this is a picture of what would look like industrial, early 20th century, but no, it's just the bin fires that are happening in Birmingham right now.
It looks like a landscape of what Fred Dibner would have worked on whilst it was still
Oh,
working.
he'd love it. He'd absolutely love it. Look at those chimneys. Don't mention that.
It is an incredible game. You're right, though, Tom. It's got all the good elements that you want in a board game. You're kind of. I mean, it's not card drafting, really, is it? Because you're not keeping any of the cards. You're just kind of cycling through that deck.
Hand management, maybe, to make sure you're playing the right way.
Yeah, I guess so. But I even like it down to the little details of the kind of take that when you build an industry in a slot that somebody has been, aiming for on the last kind of couple of goes, but they didn't have the money to do it or whatever reason, and then they, you finally kind of put them to the post on building that kind of brewery that's not connected, and miles from anything.
Yeah.
That kind of thing is really great. And just taking other people's beer, what a delight. I just don't know anything better. Because
It's annoying.
it's so good, but it's so good, right? Because you have this one big move where you manage to lay two tracks, get to the beer that you need to get to, steal it, build a load of stuff, and then you're off. So no,
So,
beautiful
so
game,
there
love
may
it.
be people listening to this that haven't played Brass Birmingham before.
They need to
So,
stop
so why
listening to this
is
and go and play it.
Rhys? Why is beer so key to the game? What is the factor about the beer that you need?
It's the lubricant to get your constructions on the board, I suppose. You're lubricating the workforce to get your brewery built, or to get your cotton mill built. So without beer, you can't do anything. You have to have access to beer, otherwise you can't put your cotton mill up, or your box factory, or whatever it is that you're building, and you have to be linked to it as well. And that's the difficult thing.
Yeah.
The lovely little twist on that is that if it's your own brewery, you can access it from anywhere and you don't need to be linked to it. But if you're taking beer from someone else's brewery, which is the sweet point, when you can do it, that's where you need to be linked to it, in the first era by canal, in the second era by train tracks. So yeah, really, really good. Love that mechanic. I think it's such a great aspect of the game.
So, Seb, one thing I wanted to sort of come to you, because you're kind of the resident expert on this, is that money's very tight in the game. And I don't think I've ever had a game where I haven't had to take a loan to help fund future operations. You seem to be the master of this. So, why don't you talk us through how important currency is, maybe, and loans in the game?
Well, so you've got an income tracker on the game, and that income helps subsidize things that you're trying to build on the board. And it starts off, you start off on zero income. So at the beginning of the game, you're fairly broke, and it's likely that you're going to have to take a loan fairly early on. Um, my my thought on it is that you don't get points for having a high income. So I don't have a problem with just taking out loads and loads of loans, and subsidizing my spending through that. I think it's quite an effective strategy. I mean, I'm usually points wise the end of the first era up there, so I don't think it's. I think it's just it's quite a nice alternative to instead having to sell your goods early on. Um, because the way you build income is by you activate a coal mine or an ironworks, or you've sold your goods from your factories. But that can take a while, and I quite like saving up those elements for one big turn at the end of the round. And taking those loans helps facilitate that. No one else seems to do it that we play with, but it's just the way I like
Well,
doing it.
I think it is a really good tactic, and not this game, but the game before. I think it really paid off for you. You took more loans this game, I think, or was that the previous one? Anyway, one of the games we had recently, I felt like, oh, that is actually working out quite well. To take quite a lot of loans, slightly screw yourself over to start with, but just having enough readies to then be able to drive your income forward. And I think it was the three of us, Seb and Paul, that were playing, and you had that insane turn where you just turned loads and loads and loads over at the same time. And so you looked like you were miles behind, and then you sold loads using coal and iron and probably stuff at the same time as part of what you were doing on your turn. And then you shot forward. And again, it was about putting your stuff onto the board that then you put yourself into a ridiculous position,
Well,
which again,
it's quite
part
it's
part of
quite
the loan.
it's quite a high risk strategy, especially when you've got uh, a Rhys playing with you, who is uh, who is the minesweeper of the
Trying to
beer.
steal your beer.
Yeah, and whenever I've got beer on the board, I'm thinking about Rhys because
I'm sniffing it out.
He's an absolute toad and will always try and screw me over. Whether it's intentional or not, I know he's always looking for that, and I know you guys would be as well, Tom and Paul. But me and Rhys got history going back to Mario Kart. So
It's always intentional, Seb. Don't question it ever.
I'll never forget Rainbow Road.
I was very happy to see the old Utoxeter gambit being played in our last few games as well for beer. In the first stage, where you build up in Utoxeter and then you can just have your own beer and nobody can get it from you.
Yeah.
It's only connected by rail.
Yeah, that was nice.
It's very handy to get that. It's and it is lucky if you manage to get a hold of that because it's protected. But if you get it, you got to play it, don't you?
Yeah. It's one of those things that I almost feel like it must be we're misreading a rule or something on it because it is almost broken right in the normal pattern of play.
But I guess you also need to manage things, don't you? To get the Utoxeter card, which is luck, but then manage your resources that you can actually afford to build the brewery there, because there have to be advantages, but also because everything is card driven. On your turn, you get 2 actions, and you must play a card for each action, regardless of what it is. You can then plan it out, but by doing that, then you're being hindered elsewhere. So you might be able to get a nice brewery somewhere, but potentially at the cost of building a better factory or pottery.
Not if you've taken out 10 loans in the previous 10 turns, though, right? And just before we move on from the loans discussion, I mean, another great thing about doing all those loans so early on in the game is you lose less income. I mean, sure, you go down 3 income slots to is it 3 income slots to take the loan? You go down 3 income slots every time you take a loan, but as you progress up the kind of income bar, sometimes it's 3 income just to get to the next kind of, to go from 1 money to 2 money, for instance. So if you're kind of making that progression and then taking loans, you're actually kind of dropping quite a lot more income. But if you do it all at the beginning and never take another loan after that, then your efficiency is a lot better. So no, I like that tactic. It's don't think it's a bad one at all. Not to give you a compliment, Seb.
That sounded quite close to it, actually.
That was pretty difficult for me. That was got to be careful.
So I think it's got the right amount of tactics, doesn't it? Because you've got to play the cards that are in front of you, but because you have a hand of 8 cards and you're only playing 2 at a time, you can kind of plan it out. But I don't ever feel it's overly thinky. You're not. Sometimes if someone kind of goes exactly where you want, you might just need something. But I feel your turns can come around relatively quickly. You're not waiting for ages. And the other thing I love about this game is the player order changes.
Yeah.
And you can kind of have a bit of ownership as well over that happens. So Tom, why don't you take us through how the player order each round is determined?
Right, and I think a better player than me, maybe you 3, would think about this more than I do. The way in which the player order works is that it's based on the amount of money that was spent on the previous turn. So when you spend your money, instead of just chucking it in the bank, you put it against your player token on the board. And then almost as the last action, if not the last action of the round, is you then change the player order based on whoever spent the most. So they would then go to the bottom of the stack. And the bit that I say, which is then I think, again, a bit of the depth and maybe somewhere that I personally could get to with this game eventually, is planning more than I do. Like, I would maybe try it a little bit. If I know there's a competition for resources, you could play, just buy nothing, or buy just a couple of trains or something like that, or boats, sorry, which are quite low. so you can deliberately then get to the top of the pile for starting the next turn. It's something that I very occasionally do. I think probably a really good player would do that all the time. Is they'd really plan out and go like, okay, right, I'm going to do that and that and that. But to come back to your point, is that on the speed of the turns and so on, is that yeah, I think games I enjoy of this are definitely when people playing with people who do try and think, okay, this is what I probably want to do the next turn. But actually, you can only do that up to a point because it does change. Again, I repeat myself a bit. Is one of the things I really like is the game state will change before it gets round to you again. So it's good to have a general idea of I want to do this. I know I'm trying to build a brewery or a iron foundry or something like that. I've got a couple of options, but you can't ever be too fixed on it because it will probably change by the time it gets around to you. But I like that. I think that's a good thing. Wouldn't suit everybody, I think. People are very rigid of oh, this is what I want to do, and I'm doing that, and I'm doing that, and doing that, and doing that. That's not what this game is.
Usually there's enough flexibility in the cards that you have, though, right? That you can
You can,
typically
but
do what you.
maybe it'll be the next town over or
Yeah,
something like that.
exactly. Yeah.
You've
It's
got to
just
have
yeah,
an adaptive strategy in this game. You certainly can't be rigid in the way you're
no.
doing.
No, because
But like you said, if your plans do change, I mean that happens all the time basically, and that usually results in me muttering and swearing under my breath because which you guys hear quite a lot playing this game. But that's one of the reasons why I love it is that I'm really engaged with all the things that other people are doing throughout the gameplay. I'm not just thinking about my own gameplay. I'm learning about what other people are trying to do and then trying to slot in what I want to do through that and thinking about what's the most risk-free strategy to try and achieve what I want.
Yeah.
I think the nice thing is that there isn't too much of that conflict in it, though. The conflict is very mild. It is, oh, you've just gone where I want to go. It's that kind of classic worker placement almost conflict, isn't it? Or you've just taken the beer that I was gonna use. But they're kind of impactful enough to be funny, but not
Yeah.
not so impactful that it's going to really upset somebody, playing this game.
You never get
Yeah.
completely stuck, do you? You're never put in a situation where you can't do anything. You can always do something productive.
You can always
Or
take
you-
a loan. Yeah.
Yeah, or I mean, there are moments where, like, say you're about to do your big sell-off of goods at the end of the round, and then someone screws you over and steals your beer, Rhys. I mean that can be frustrating, but if you leave yourself open to that, then you know that that's a risk. So you have to be prepared for it, but you've got to go for the win, and yeah, it's a great game, loads of nuance to it, and always ever changing. No game is ever the same, is
It
it?
is. Yeah, it's true. And you have to think on your feet. I mean, you could be planning to build, a coal mine, but the three players who are going before you have all just built three, they've just built a coal mine each, or maybe a couple of coal mines each.
Yeah.
And so it gets to your go and you're like, oh, it's pointless me. And the market's saturated with coal now. I'm going to have to build something else. So you kind of decide to build something else. So yeah, you do have to kind of think on the fly a little bit, but just like Tom said, it's two actions. It's not complex. It's basically, do you want to build something in the town, or do you want to lay a railway, or do you want to take a loan? I mean, if you boil it down, those are the kind of things that you can do.
This game got brilliant little things in it that just what you mentioned in passing there about the supply and demand of the coal and the iron right on the board is that it's a tiny little thing, but just is done fantastically in the way that the market could be completely flooded with coal at that time. And then you get around to your next turn and loads of coal's been used, and so now there's a big opportunity that you could take advantage of. As long as you can do it before someone else does, you then fill that out, take advantage of that, and you've then stopped your rivals from doing the same. Brilliant.
Mm. And I mean, there's nothing quite like when somebody takes that last resource cube from your, your iron mill or your coal mine, and you get to flip it and get the points and the income boost as well. I mean, it's just
I think
those
maybe that's part of
little
it, right?
dopamine hits.
Right. This is what it is that this is why people love this game, I think, is that you sort of engage with the board. The board changes that actually physically. You're flipping the tiles, you're taking cubes off there, you're filling them back up again. You can sort of see your actions really make a difference on what's going on the board. It's you get the gratification from that, which I think
And
maybe is silly for some people, but that's it sounds almost ridiculous talking about it of how can flipping tiles and putting cubes on the board or taking them off make a difference to you, but it is good. You can sort of, I don't know quite what it is, but it's there's some dumb excitement there.
it's true. It's true. And more importantly, what a board it is. I mean,
Does
this
look
game
amazing.
is gorgeous on both sides, right? It's day. They've got like a day side and a night side to the board, right?
Yeah,
I think we've always exclusively played on the night side. I don't know if that's,
it's a
I've
bit more
seen
thematic, right?
I've seen the day side, but no,
Maybe it's
only have
clear day, smoggy day. That's what it is.
yeah, yeah. But the artwork is, yeah, just gorgeous in this. The box, just everything about it is just really lovely. And you can buy kind of components for it that are, you
Oh
know,
yeah. Mm.
Little beer
the
barrels
little
and
beer barrels and things like that.
lumps of iron and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I'd probably fork out and get that if I owned this game. And
And then, and then
I
on
would love
top of
to own
that,
it, but
well, Seb, you own it, don't you, Seb? And
It's a cherished game on my shelf.
yeah, it's gorgeous. It is gorgeous. And on top of that, because you play with currency, but while we're talking of upgrades, you can get these really high quality, like poker chip style
Yeah.
clays for the money, and just feeling the weight of those weighty old chips as you spend them on your next box factory. It feels
The iron clays.
more immersive. Yeah.
I just want to play it again now.
It is a game that you can just keep on playing. Like you finish a game and you're like, let's just start again and play another, even though you've maybe been playing it for an hour and a half already. It's got so much replayability. I could just carry on playing it.
And yet there are things that I don't think I've never seen really used a lot. And those are the wild cards, which are another option for you again if you get
Oh
completely
yeah,
stuck, that
yeah.
you can, if the cards that you've got are just not suiting your strategy at all, or maybe some people, better players again, do this as an active thing to try and focus on one part of the board, is that you can get wild card industry and wild card location that kind of let you do whatever you want at a little bit of sacrifice. Very rare to see someone doing that in any of the games that we've had, but also overbuilding as well. You feel like we used to do that more, is that you have the option over certain, I've just forgotten exactly what the rule is, but it's over certain industries, can't you? You
Yeah.
can
If
put additional tiles on the top to, you're running out of space. You sacrifice some points on that, but you can build on top of existing industries.
Yeah, so I think like I've played recently a number of three-player games, and although on a three-player game there's a part of the board you don't use, I still feel there's enough space to kind of go and do what you want. But on a four-player game, it is getting really tight, and yeah, sometimes I've needed that overbuild option, which yes, it means at the end of the era, you're not going to get any points for what's underneath, what you've built on top of. However, you know what you're building may be worth more points, but is also going to give your income a boost, and as we know that you know money is tight in these situations. Yeah, I think that's maybe something we should use more to be a more kind of tactical game possibly. The other thing that I kind of just tend to use as an afterthought if I'm stuck is develop industries where you pay iron to essentially kind of sack off on your board. You've got each player has got their own little board with varying stages of each area that get slightly more expensive but give you better returns. So you can develop those and get rid of them. And the other reason you might need to do it is in the canal era, which is the first era, there are certain things like the basic beer and coal that if you haven't built them by the time the rail era starts, you must take that develop action because otherwise you're not allowed to build them. And again, you can kind of get stuck, which takes it back to that planning of like, right, what am I going to develop? When am I going to do it? How am I going to maximize my turns?
Interesting you say that you would use the develop action as sort of like a way to just fill your turn, because I actively use it quite early on to make sure that I get to those level 2 industries, because if you get a level 2 on the board and it gets flipped, it scores twice if you score it
Yeah.
in the canal era and then in the train era. So I think it's the develop action is really crucial to getting your point score higher, just because you get to score industries twice.
I've definitely tried to do it more recently, yeah. And a great way to use up your iron on the board as well to flip the iron foundries.
And I mean, the wild card, I'm thinking about it. If you wanted to build beer in a place in the canal era when no one can get to it, and you don't have the luck of the Irish, and you haven't pulled out the what was the name of the town that
Toxter.
Toxter. If you don't have that card, I'm assuming you can get a wild card and just build there anyway.
Sure.
So I mean, the nice thing is there are a plethora of options, right? There's always something that you can do, and I think they've done a really good job in kind of making sure that you're never completely stuck for anything that you can do.
Yeah, I like that you feel like certainly feel like you play. Well, obviously, when you're initially playing any game, you're a complete beginner. But I feel like this game has lots of steps up of like your understanding of the game. Like, I've only just started using. I think I used Overbuild for the first time in my last game. I must have played this game 10, 15 times. And it just opened up a new world of like, I can do all these things now, and like the wildcards thing I've never done. So there's another level of complexity that I can add to the game, and I'm already loving the game, and I can add more to it. And that's just one of the things that this game just keeps giving to you.
Who's the game for, guys?
I think it's for people who have a fair amount of board game experience. I wouldn't say it's definitely not for a complete beginner of someone who's only just joined the sort of board gaming world.
Yeah.
You've got to have you've got to be able to have an understanding of how the way board games work, and there's quite a lot to remember in it. But you can still have a good game of this with a basic understanding.
I mean,
but it's certainly not a beginner's game.
You could definitely talk somebody through. I mean, it'd be a long game to do as a teach for the whole table. But you could talk people through the game, right? Because it is only 2 actions. But I agree. I think it's if you like board games and you do play board games fairly regularly, I mean, I think most people are going to like this game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it's not silly to say this about the #1 board game in the world, I think anybody should try it. Everybody should try it. If you have an interest in board games at all, I think you can work your way out around to how to do it. Or Birmingham, yeah. When if you don't like Birmingham, Lancashire, the options are there.
I haven't played Lancashire. I missed the game that you guys did.
I'd encourage anyone to have a go. That's my point.
I think I prefer Birmingham. I like the beers. So in Lancashire, you don't have beers, but you've got shipping routes, and stuff, and they can be slightly random. So that's nice. depending on, they might alter your scoring and stuff. But I don't know, Birmingham's just lovely. It's just
Are they
It's very hard
are
to
they
define.
reprinting Lancashire? Because I know that like the artwork's nowhere near as nice on.
So it is the newer one. So there was the
They have done a
original
reprint.
brass, which was just called brass and had like a yellowy, orangey red kind of look to it with a industrialist on the front going, "Aha, business." They've completely redesigned that to, I think, post Brass Birmingham, completely redesigned that to be what is now known as Brass Lancashire.
Yeah,
Originally was just brass, and that has exactly the same kind of style to it as Birmingham.
nice, nice. I'll have to give it a go at
It is
some point.
brilliant. It is brilliant. There is one thing about Birmingham, and I think this is true of Lancashire as well, that sort of desperately trying to think this afternoon of any problems with Birmingham, the game, not the place, and
Vince.
yeah, and I think they're called distant markets, maybe foreign markets in Lancashire. I think we most commonly call them foreign markets, even though on Birmingham it's talking about places like Gloucester and Oxford and places like that. But I don't, I don't know how much of a problem I think this is, but it can sometimes stuff you up a little bit. Is that if you had a hand of cards that was not very favourable to certain part of the board, where sorry, and then the should maybe just go backwards slightly and explain what those are. The foreign markets, as we call them, are around the edge of the board, where if you connect to them, you can buy coal from the market, sell coal to the market when you build your coal mine, and also then those will be the areas that you'll sell your products to that you're building in your factories. I don't think we've quite covered that off completely yet. And those foreign markets will have a type or multiple types of goods that you can sell to them. And in any game, you'll have some that will be blank and some that maybe will just do one, like boxes or something. I think there must be, if we read the rules properly, they must be called something else other than boxes, but we always call them box factories.
A goods factory, isn't it?
Goods factories, yeah. I think it's goods and cotton, isn't it? But we always do it like box factories. I'm making boxes. And anyway, very long, boring story short is that if the part of the board that you have cards in, certainly early in the game, don't sell the kind of thing that you are able to build, that could be annoying. I mean, it's kind of very, very occasionally impacted what I've done, but I think it's just, for me, pushed me to another part of the board. So it's the only kind of negative that I could think of, really, is that I think some people might get frustrated with that. But actually, I think for the reasons we've already discussed, you always have an option. You're always going to get more cards. You're flexible enough in what you can do that you're going to get somewhere where you can sell to that foreign market. If you're not the first person, that's not quite as good. If you're the first person, there's an advantage in doing that, selling to that market. But even so, as long as you can get a connection in, then I think you're probably okay. And the problem solves itself right over the course of the game, because as the game goes on, there's more connections that are made that allow you to then sell almost to wherever you want.
I think in the very early stages of the game, that is a tricky element. But as you say, as the networks of canal and rail develop, you will get connected to these places where you can sell your goods. But it is tricky at the beginning, and you do have to strategize around, what you can, where you can sell things on the board. But ultimately, by the end of each game state, like canal and rail, you will be able to sell pretty much anywhere on the board, can't you?
Yeah,
as you said.
yeah.
And also by building those links are going to score you points. So each little building will have kind of link points that are there. So when you get to the two scoring parts and you're scoring for your link tiles, actually, if because you got stuck on the wrong side of map and you've had to build a load of links to get somewhere, as long as there are a load of industries that have been built up around, then you're going to score some good points from that. And I think we've seen in the past that you can probably score the majority of your points from that if needed.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great way to get a big boost to your points.
Bubble.
So let's give it a score. I mean, I think the listeners aren't going to be surprised that it's probably going to be fairly good across the board. But let's do it anyway. So Tom, let's start with you.
I think I still prefer Lancashire. So Lancashire's a 9.1. There's almost nothing to separate these. They're, they're the kind of the same, but there's just bits that I really like in Lancashire. That maybe we should house rule into this. I don't know. Like most notably, I do really like the shipping lanes and the way that those will change and the pressure you get from that in Lancashire, and the variable load amounts I think is a brilliant thing in Lancashire, where in Birmingham, Brass Birmingham, you take a loan. It's just a set amount. In Lancashire, you can sort of choose how much you're going to have, and then have the point penalty as appropriate, which adds a bit of jeopardy in there, maybe complication as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Brass Lancashire 9.1, which leaves Brass Birmingham on a 9. Brilliant, love it. Almost nothing to separate.
Thank you, Rhys.
I'm exactly the same. Before Tom gave his score, in my head, I'm like, this is a 9 for me. Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. I think everything about it is great. It's not quite a 10 for me. I think maybe just because, like, out of everything, the theme isn't like, oh, I love the Industrial Revolution.
Why?
I mean, it's done really well, and the artwork's fantastic, and it's not that I hate it, but I think maybe that's the only reason it's not like a 10 is because of that. And I like a game with a bit more conflict in it, I think, around the table. But it's still got elements of that. It's just a really tight, very lovely game. So yeah, 9, solid 9.
Solid 9.
What elusive Rhys 10. When will we get there? When will we find it?
Seb.
For me, this is a completely faultless game. Every point of the game is really strong. There's nothing that lets it down for me. And I'm quite connected. Regionally, I'm quite connected to it. I'm from
really?
Birmingham.
Oh.
In Centenary Square, there were the industrial fathers of the city, and some of those characters are in this game. So it really ticks a lot of boxes for me. There's nostalgia, there's great gameplay, there's excellent player interaction, there's quite a lot of strategy and tactical thinking. It's complete for me. So it's a 10.
Nice, very nice.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Another 10 for Seb.
I do
So
get
generous.
quite excited about games.
It's like feast or famine with your scores, isn't it?
Well, I've never been grumpy when I played Brass Birmingham.
Well, I'm going to use Tom's logic, but I think Brass Birmingham's better than Brass Lancashire, so it gets a 9.1 from me.
Nice.
Thank you, gents. That's Brass Birmingham. It is a very popular one with us, and as you can see on Board Game Geek, across the board. So if you haven't tried it, please give it a go. If you don't like it, we'd love to hear your thoughts as well. We are on Instagram and Blue Sky, so please let us know your thoughts on Brass Birmingham. I'm having my one. You are currently winning.
Absolutely robbed of the time of crisis wins that I had last time. I was Seb coming in sealing it. My wins didn't get one mention. Rhys's were mentioned about how much he won it. Mine, not a single mention. This time, I win the game. Not a mention of who won it all the way through. Unbelievable.